Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm part of the team that created and maintains Tharsis. Tharsis is an open source, enterprise grade DevOps platform built for Terraform at scale. In this video, we'll take a quick look at Tharsis in action, deploying some resources and exploring a few of its key features along the way. This is a quick hands-on introduction to show you what Tharsis can do. So you might wonder, why use Tharsis? Why not just use native Terraform? Well, Terraform gives you raw power, but scaling it across teams, enforcing policies, managing state securely, and organizing workflows becomes complex very quickly. Tharsis is a robust platform that handles all of that out of the box. It's built to scale easily, from a single team to an organization with multiple teams managing complex applications and projects. And because it's open source, it's completely free. You can get started today. So let's jump in and see Tharsis in action. So before we jump right into Tharsis, I'm going to briefly show my setup. So I'll be running Tharsis locally. This is our section in GitLab, and I've just cloned over the Tharsis API repo. And in this repo, just using Docker Compose, I can run the API and the UI together. The instructions are here in the README, and you can find more info in our docs. Check out our quick start section and our setup section. And we'll also be interacting with Tharsis using the CLI. So in our CLI section, you can download the latest binary under releases. And I actually have this set up already. So this is the Tharsis API. I'm already running all the services. So I ran Docker Compose. So once all of those are looking good, to get to the UI, I just go to localhost 3000 and I get the login page. So I'll enter in Martian for both, Martian, and this is the Tharsis UI. And for the CLI, I actually have the binary already. So if I just run Tharsis, so these are all our CLI commands. So we'll need to log into Tharsis via Tharsis SSO login. As you see, it's one of the commands here. And we get the confirmation page. So we have the API and the UI running, and we're able to interact with Tharsis via the CLI. And again, more instructions can be found if you check out the Tharsis API, the README section, and check out our documentation as well. Okay, so we have the API and the UI running, and we'll be able to interface with Tharsis with the CLI. So let's create our first group and workspace. So in Tharsis, groups are the main containers that hold our workspaces. Workspaces will actually create our infrastructure. Groups can have multiple groups, subgroups, nested groups, and groups can have multiple workspaces. So another advantage of using Tharsis is you get a lot of flexibility to manage your infrastructure. So let's explore the UI very briefly. So here is where we'll be able to see all our groups, our workspaces, our registry. We'll explore this a little bit later, especially the module registry. This is my avatar. So immediately I'm an admin. So to create a group, we're going to create a top level group. I'll go to groups, new group, and I'll name this dev. Okay, so now that we have a group, I'll create a workspace within it. So let's just call this demo. Okay, so in this workspace demo, this is where we'll create our infrastructure. So let's get started with that. Okay, so now that we have a workspace, let's create some infrastructure in that workspace. So we're going to create an EC2 instance, and an EC2 instance is basically a virtual server in AWS. So this is the file we're going to use. This is a one-page Terraform file that is going to create that instance. And this is it has one resource, the actual instance itself. It has some variables, some outputs. So as we're creating this, along the way, we'll see the features and advantages of using Tharsis. Okay, so Tharsis already gives us some guidance on how to create our infrastructure. So we can create a run via the CLI. So I'm already logged into the CLI, so I won't need to run the login command. And if I run Tharsis apply, and I can pass in the directory path, and I'm actually already in the directory that contains that one-page Terraform file, so I won't need to add that flag in. And I'll just enter the workspace path, which would be dev demo, dev being the group path, and then demo being the name of the workspace. So that's the workspace path. And I think that looks good, so let's give that a shot. Okay, and we see a run ID for this immediately, and we can monitor the logs. And this is a feature that is unique to Tharsis, and that's our plan visualization. So the plan completed, and we can see what the changes are going to be. So we have this diff viewer. So we see here 5 outputs will be added, 1 resource will be added, and yeah, we can see this resource will be created, which is our instance, and these 5 outputs will be created. And plan has 1 job. This is the runner that's actually executing, that is executing the job. And looks good. Again, this is very unique to Tharsis, being able to see these changes. We can see them here in the terminal as well, so that's also helpful. And if all looks good, we can run apply, and we can do that in the next section. Okay, so the plan completed, and with plan visualization, we were able to see what the changes would be. 1 resource will be added, 5 outputs will be added, so we can see this in the changes tab. So let's go ahead and run apply. Let's do it through the UI. And while that's going on, we can also see our list of runs, so we can monitor this here. This is where all our runs will be listed, so we can keep track of our infrastructure there as well. And let's go back here. Yeah, it looks like the apply completed. Again, we can see the changes here. And yeah, it looks like everything worked, and you can see the state version here. I won't show the file because there's some sensitive information, but this is also, we can keep track of state here as well. And yeah, it looks good. Okay, so our workspace was updated, so we can see this message, state last updated, and we can see the resources. So this is that instance we created, the input variables that we used, the outputs that were generated. So let's see more of Tharsis by destroying the workspace. So I get a confirmation message, and I'll go ahead and do that. So immediately a plan is created. Okay, so it looks like the apply stage of our destroy run ran successfully. The instance, the resource was destroyed, 5 outputs were removed in our state version. There's nothing sensitive here, but this is our current state. On the workspace details page, we see we don't have, that resource is gone. Our outputs are gone too. So yeah, this is another great advantage to Tharsis, being able to visualize and manage everything. So another great feature of Tharsis that I want to highlight is our drift detection feature. So drift in Terraform occurs when what we say our infrastructure should be differs from our actual infrastructure. So say, for instance, with that EC2 instance that we created, if I made changes to it in AWS, instead of making changes by creating a run in Tharsis, that would create a conflict because our changes would be different from what Tharsis has. So to demonstrate, I created a new workspace in our dev group and already ran this. And just to briefly go over it, so going to the apply stage, this run created these two resources, these two local files, app-config and deployment. And I created these specifically with the intention that they wouldn't exist. So in our file name, after apply created these resources, my Mac created them in these temporary files, so they actually don't exist anymore. So in our state file, we can see Tharsis is saying that these resources, these files should exist, but they don't exist anymore. So let's go back to our workspace, and under our drift tab, we can create a run that will specifically check for drift. So let me hit that and see what happens. So confirm. So it starts running. And it looks like drift was detected. And again, in this diff viewer, we can see drift here. This resource was deleted. This resource was deleted. And we get this warning banner, so we can take any kind of action that we need. So a very useful feature. So if I go to registry and select modules, this is our registry where we can store modules. A module is a file or collection of files that generally do the same task. Usually it's to create infrastructure. So I have a couple uploaded here. This module is that one-page Terraform file that creates our EC2 instance. When I uploaded it to Tharsis, Tharsis parsed out all the information. So I'll show just a few of the items here on the detail page. Under the docs tab, we see our inputs. One is required, passing the AMI ID. We have 5 outputs and one resource, which is the instance itself. And here's another module. This was a publicly available module that I uploaded to our registry. And this came with an overview, so it describes the module in more detail. Again, we see the inputs, the outputs, 4 resources that are created. I can have different versions of this module. I could download this module, make changes to it, re-upload it as a different version, so very easy to keep track of. Say that I wanted to create a run from one of our modules, I'd go to a workspace. Under the workspace sidebar, I'd select runs, create run, and I'd select a module. Let's just hit plan. And to select a module from our Tharsis registry, Tharsis, select module source, and these are those modules in our registry. So it's great to have all my team has access to these modules. We can be on the same page. And check out our section in the docs for more information on working with and managing the registry. So to do something like create an EC2 instance in AWS, I need some way to pass in my credentials, and this is where managed identities come in. So their group resource, I'm in my dev group under managed identities. I have one here, and this will assume my current IAM role. So to create this managed identity, I just plugged in my IAM role, and that's pretty much it. I can assign this managed identity to any workspace within the group, and this managed identity will assume that role without storing any secrets. We use OIDC federation. And so say for instance, in this workspace, I wanted to create some infrastructure. So we can see under assign managed identities, we're going to use this account admin role, and that'll handle all my credentials. And to learn more, check out our section in the docs. And I should say that because I'm running locally, I wasn't able to use this managed identity, but there is a workaround for it, and that'll bring us to our next section. Variables are the data that we pass in when we're creating our runs. Variables can be created at the group level, and any workspaces in that group will have access to those variables. And I'll go back to the workspace where we created our EC2 instance. So the variables that we used, I created them within the workspace itself. So these are our Terraform variables. That instance just needed me to pass in the AMI ID, and I set these environment variables. So this is what I used in lieu of using a managed identity. In a production development environment, I'd be able to use our managed identity, and then I could just assign it just like that. But yeah, I think this is another great example of whether you're running locally or in a production environment. Tharsis gives you a lot of different options. And that's it for this quick introduction to Tharsis. We've interacted with Tharsis, creating groups and workspaces. We deployed an EC2 instance and explored key Tharsis features like our plan visualization and drift detection. We also looked at the module registry, managed identities, and variables. And we've just scratched the surface of what Tharsis can do. To dive deeper, check out our documentation or head to our GitLab project to explore the code and get started today. Tharsis takes everything you love about Terraform and makes it easier, safer, and more powerful for teams and enterprises. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see what you build with Tharsis.